Alright, I'm just going to do a quick video on a little instructional on, well, not an instruction, more of a stitching method if you don't know how to sew already, or if you'd like a cleaner looking way to attach it. So I'm going to be sewing this guy on. I also sell patches if you're interested. These are on suede. I do the artwork and then laser burn them on. And here's a good way, if you're using braided thread that's been, it isn't sinew would, this is not effective for sinew, but that's also more waxy, so it kind of tends to just stay. I like to thread it and then send the needle through the thread. Now you got this kind of loop, and that typically stays in there pretty well. So how I like to start it is I like to go between the fabrics, or start somewhere underneath just to hide my first one, my first stitch. About 2 or 3 inches hanging out, and I'm going to be doing a straight stitch where all of them come out like in a straight line instead of going from hole to hole, because sometimes I just like it to look a little extra creepy, or I don't know, rustic. And so after you go around once, I like to go around twice on each one, because if you go straight from hole to hole doing this, it'll kind of tug it in that direction unless you have one layer that's actually anchoring it. And on the second time, I go in here and out there, effectively hiding the part of the string where it goes from one hole to the next. And then you go straight through that same hole you just came out, boom, and then you want to go back into this hole and then come out your next hole. I'm using a large needle just so that it's possible for you to see what I'm doing without me hiding the needle with my hands. Coming through a seam can be a little hard, but I'm using an actual sharp needle right now. Most of my other needles are dulled because I poke all my own holes. Don't like poking myself. And if you find a needle you do like that isn't dull, you can always just use a steel file, make it dull, or take a dull one and make it sharp. Okay, go through here, and every single time you gotta make sure to do that first one that's just a full loop, because otherwise this thing would be getting tugged all types of directions right now. But this is a way to anchor it. Now I like to do a saddle stitch on most of my leatherwork things, not so much patches. But I do a different version. I'm going to have to make a video on it because it's kind of hard to explain. But it's a saddle stitch where you just use one needle and basically go all the way, and then either go all the way again, depending on if you have an odd or even amount of holes. Either that or you skip one, or reverse. And you only have to use one needle for it. It's way quick. But it does not work effectively with braided thread, because in sinew it allows it to tighten because it can slip up and down the thread, but it won't allow it to do that if you have braided thread and you go through. You can do it, but you have to avoid your thread going through your thread as you pass back through every single time, and that's just complicated when you're doing work with tight holes anyway. It's not so hard when you're using punched holes like on my patches. Try to get this camera a little closer. Always make sure you're not going through your pockets or anything when you're doing the backside if you're doing it like this, because it's easy to forget what's on the other side of the fabric when you don't have to flip it over and over. Oops, did I skip it? Yep. Oopsie daisy. I refuse to edit videos. Y'all get to see all the mistakes. Gotta go through it one more again. Usually I'm a good bit quicker than this. I'm trying to do it at a strange angle for the camera. and probably not even doing a very good job of that. Sorry. Right now what I'm doing is controlling how tight this is being pulled, because it was looking a little loose before. I want it to be flexible, but so I want to have a little play in it like it does, but I want to tighten it like that. So what I'm doing is coming up a little, having the needle come up a little far down this way from where the hole is, and then you go through the hole in your leather, and then you want to allow it to go back this way just enough. Looks like I'm running out of thread. There. That way it pulls it tight. Just use a shorter needle for this last part. Braided thread might be a little thick for this little needle. There we go. And finish it off. Give it a little tug. I like to just do like you would with a regular tying your shoes, you know, but just spin it around that twice instead of just once. And do it one more time, but backwards. Snip it with about a 1/2 inch of slack. And if you're using any type of synthetic, that only really works with any type of synthetic thread, which is pretty much why I use synthetic thread, because you can have the start and finish of your string, which is typically where your problem happens in stitching. You can have those pieces be literally fused into the rest of it. So it doesn't matter if you are good at tying knots or not. That's a little looser than I would have liked it, but I put new patches on this thing every day, so. Next I'll be doing this guy, this guy, and this guy, and this guy, the wizard. I'll probably hop on live stream for that part, but yeah. Have fun going through your rough patch.